Resident Evil 0 Remastered. Another year, another Resident Evil game. I'm gonna be entirely honest, I wasn't really that interested to play this game at all. But to this day, I have reviewed every single Resident Evil game that's come out since I opened this channel, and I am not breaking tradition now. So with that in mind, Resident Evil 0 Remastered. The original Resident Evil is a game that is seen as a classic. Even if you haven't played the game, chances are you still know the voice acting, Spencer Mansion, and the Jill Sandwich line. I mean, that'll be because Revelations 2 won't let you forget the line, but that's besides the point.
That was almost a Claire sandwich.
Yeah, we get it, good one. The point is, everybody knows the original Resident Evil, but Resident Evil 0 is a totally different beast. Who these guys are, where it's set, hell, whether if it was even well received or not, I have no idea. So seeing a remastering of this game before any of the other games is pretty interesting. I mean, I know Capcom are making a Resident Evil 2 remake, like from the grounds up and everything. I just mean the fact that they made this, like they were so in a rush to get this game out. Like, is there, I don't even know what point I'm trying to make anymore. So does this game stack up to the original, or is it a big old pile of doody? I don't know, let's find out. Resident Evil 0. Resident Evil 0 is set before the events of the original Resident Evil, and centers around Rebecca Chambers and Billy Cohen, a STARS field medic and a convicted serial murderer respectively. And due to a series of unfortunate and convenient events, they're forced to team up on board a train to solve a whole bunch of mysteries. AKA it's like Scooby-Doo, except the dogs are more rabid and the gang are more murdery. And that might sound pretty similar to the original Resident Evil, except instead of it being set in a mansion, it's set on a train and then a mansion. So it's different. Actually, a lot of the game is pretty similar to Resident Evil Remastered. The storytelling, the gameplay, the puzzles, the items, the music, the almost point-and-clicky way you pick up items and try to figure out what the hell to do with them. To put it simply, this is to Resi Remastered as Blood Dragon is to Far Cry 3. More or less the same assets rearranged into a different game, but there are quite a few differences too. One of them being that the characters are pretty dumb. Hard to believe in a Resident Evil game, but no, I mean they are especially stupid in this game. First up, the game opens up with Rebecca searching for Billy in the woods, knowing that he is a serial murderer. Then about 10-15 minutes later, there's a quick cutscene of her finding out that he's killed 23 people. Well, that's a lot of people. He must be pretty crazy. I better be careful around him. I better not trust him. If I run into him, I'm not gonna... no way. Then within 10 seconds of running into the guy, she's like, we should team up, but don't do anything bad, please, Mr. 23 accounts of murder. Rebecca, you were just told that he's killed 23 people. Why do you want to team up with him so badly? For God's sake, he's more of a threat to you than these guys are. They barely even tried to grab you, whereas he has a gun and has probably killed 23 people with that gun, with those murderous hands. And you're putting your life in those hands. I mean, I get it if she took even a second to think about it, but it took Billy any convincing at all. But then again, I can't be too hard on her because, I mean, Billy isn't any less stupid. Half the things he says make no sense.
So, you seem to know me. Been fantasizing about me, have you?
What? Sorry, no, why would you say that, ever? I haven't seen dialogue in a game this bizarre since Remember Me.
You always waste so much saliva!
Why? Why would you say that? Oh my god. As far as the gameplay goes, it's exactly what you'd expect. Shooting zombies, finding items, picking up keys and backtracking to all the doors you can now open, fighting bosses that are just giant versions of animals that make you wonder how they exist in such a small space. It ticks everything off the Resident Evil checklist. But one of the main new gameplay mechanics is being able to play as both Rebecca and Billy, which opens up for a lot of puzzle solving and gameplay opportunities. What does gameplay opportunities mean? I don't know, it's kind of a vague term now that I say it out loud, but gameplay opportunities. And as far as I know, this is one of the main reasons that people are kinda iffy on this game compared to the other Resident Evil game, and I kinda have to agree with them. I mean, for the most part, it is pretty cool. Having double the inventory space is cool. Seeing different cutscenes based on who you're playing as at certain parts of the game is cool. Getting separated and having to find a way to get the other character out of a locked room is cool. The fact that they both have their own skills and characteristics to help with certain puzzles is definitely really cool to me. Saying 5 similar sentences in a row where you're just listing things that are in the game and adding is cool to the end is cool, but more often than not I would get game over because my companion is almost as bad at defending me as they are at defending themselves. I was barely any good at keeping myself alive in Resi Remastered. I can't keep 2 people alive in this. I don't know, I get what they were going for, but in the end it's way too frustrating to be worth it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for this section of my review, I'm going to bring back an old feature called the Sequel Checklist, where I compare a sequel to another game I've reviewed and see how many of the criticisms I had before have been rectified. Let's go! In a lot of ways, Resi Remastered is a lot like my granddad. Incredibly archaic and suffers from a chest problem. Get well soon, Grandad. Due to an extremely limited inventory, all of our items in the game would be kept in storage chests, which meant a lot of backtracking when A, you finally have use for a key item you picked up ages ago, or B, you find a key item but you can't pick it up because you didn't know you needed the extra space in your inventory because you didn't know you was going to run into that key item at that specific point. Like I said in my review, this was a bit of a mess. And thank God Resident Evil 0 does away with chests completely. Although all items still do take up a space in the inventory, including key items, and now some weapons even take up 2 slots. You can now drop items whenever you please, which is a godsend. This still involves backtracking and a lot of item juggling if you want to go back and pick them back up, which in many ways can add a whole new level of strategy and conservation, but it makes things way more convenient knowing there are more than 3 or 4 places in the entire game you can get rid of all the stuff clogging your inventory. So that's one problem rectified. Another problem I had with Resi Remastered is the quality of the pre-rendered cutscenes. But seeing as this is a remastering of a GameCube game and not a PS1 game, naturally they look a lot better, so I guess rectified for that, I guess. But another new problem that Resi 0 brings up, aside from the whole playing as Rebecca and Billy thing, is that there are a lot of annoying enemies in the later half of the game, and I don't really want to show them because, spoiler alert, because it's in the later half of the game, but yeah, it's the kind of enemy where, like, for every chance you get to shoot them once, they attack you like 2 or 3 times in their annoying way, and more often than not, you run into rooms where there's like 5 or 6 of them at once, and it's like, obviously you're gonna die, unless you have way more ammo than the game gives you. Unless you fluke and somehow win, obviously you're gonna die, and you never find herbs later on in the game, so you're always gonna be on low health. It's always annoying. The game throws way too much at you, and it forced me to stop playing, and it's annoying, and I just wanted to get that off my chest. So there you go. And that's more or less Resident Evil 0. I feel like this is my second review in a row where I'm saying that the game in question is pretty simple and small, but with it being so similar to a game I've reviewed in the past, there isn't really all that much new to say. So when you get right down to it, how would I rate this game? How does it stack up to the original Resident Evil? Honestly, it's kinda tough. Resident Evil 0 solves my biggest complaint with Resi Remastered, but replaces it with something that's equally, if not more annoying. Overall, I can't deny that it is a pretty great game, but I wouldn't rate it quite as highly. I was really looking forward to talking about how cool it is that the game takes place on board a moving train the whole time, but even that gets swapped out for a samey old mansion in the end. But at least this time I don't have any Gregory Horror Show bias. Of course, seeing as those games were so similar, I was bound to give it a good review. There was barely any contest, really, but rest assured, there's none of that here. Wait, sorry, what's that? The Gregory Horror Show game's based on a TV show, a season of which takes place entirely on board a moving train. Huh. Well, that does change things then, doesn't it? Resident Evil 0 gets a 10 out of 10.